Hello and welcome everyone for this second episode. As discussed last time, this episode will be about German item, the German Pickelhaube, so spiked helmet, sorry for my bad German pronunciation, model 1895, which was actually the spiked helmet worn by German troops at the beginning of the war, until it was replaced by the model 1915 that we will see in another video, and then in 1916 by the German steel helmet that you can see in the back, and that will also be the object of another video. So basically these helmets, as the name suggests, were created or were introduced in 1895. There were some other spiked helmets before, but this specific model is the model 95. This helmet was worn again at the beginning of the war, and on the front line, and also in the back, behind the lines, up until the end of the war, and even after for commemorative events. Okay, another piece of information, during the war and when at the front line or even during training, those helmets were supposed to be covered by a little piece of cloth, which I do not have, unfortunately. And these pieces of cloth, to make them less visible, make the soldier less visible, this piece of cloth was usually brown or sometimes in light grayish, with the unit number in the front. In red usually was for training, and in green for the field active duty, even though during the war both were seen on the front line. So now that we introduced a little bit this helmet, let's take a look at it. So this helmet is made out of leather. Okay, so everything you see which is black is actually leather covered by some lacquer, and everything you see in the which is a little more yellowish is actually brass. So you have some brass on the front visor. The plate slash insignia is made of brass. The spike is made of brass. The cocards were actually not made of brass but of metal, another type of metal, steel, I think, not steel but another kind of metal, and the iron simply, and the back is also made of brass. So the first thing we see is basically the emblem. So this is the emblem for Württemberg. Württemberg was a kingdom within the German Empire. So at the time of World War I, we are talking about the Second German Empire. It happens after the unification by Bismarck that happened at the end of the 19th century. However, if Germany is at this time a unified country, there is still some kingdoms that exist within Germany, as well as dukedoms and free cities. So there is different entities. For instance, you have the Kingdom of Prussia, which a king is actually the Emperor of Germany. You have the Kingdom of Bavaria with its own king. You have the Kingdom of Württemberg. You have the Duchy of Anhalt. You have the Duchy of Saxony, if I remember correctly, which is Saxony is a duchy. You have the Free City of Bremen, and so on. And so all these different parts, kingdoms, cities, and duchy that make up Germany at the time of the First World War actually have their own troop and their own insignia. So what we have here actually is infantry helmet for a private of the 125th Württemberg regiment, which is from Württemberg. So the 125th German regiment, which is from Württemberg. We can see that by different things. So first of all, if you have a spike and this type of helmet, the model 95, this is an infantry helmet. If it were an artillery helmet, you will have a ball instead of a spike. So spike, infantry with this type of helmet. Second, you know it's a Württemberg from the plate. So the front plate shows a crowned lion as well as a stag and the emblem of Württemberg. So we know it's a Württemberg helmet. It also shows the motto of Württemberg, the Kingdom of Württemberg, which I will not try to read. I will instead just ask Google to say it. Give me a second.
Furchtlos und Treff.
I repeat.
Furchtlos und Treff.
Basically, that's the motto of Württemberg. And you also see this cockard. This cockard is with the color of Württemberg, so black and red, which also indicates the fact that it is from Württemberg. One last thing, if everything else was missing, that could also tell us that this helmet was from Württemberg, is that on German helmets from the time, at least for trooper helmets, for private helmets, helmets worn by privates, not by officer or warrant officer. You also have in the back, in the visor, usually the infantry, the regimental number. So in this, for this one, it's a very faint. So just I will show you some picture. I will put some picture on the screen. But it's basically the IR 125, which means Infantry Regiment 125, which was indeed a Württembergish regiment. So we have a list of regiments, and for each and every regiment you can find on the internet where they are from. This one is indeed from Württemberg. So this helmet, what it's made of? So as I said, it's made of leather and of brass. And also what you have, so the two cocards that are made of metal. So again, on this side, on one side you will have the cockard for the land, for the part of Germany where it's from. So in this case it is from Württemberg. You can see it from the black and red cockard. And on the other side, what you have is the Reich cockard. So it is with the color of the Second Reich, so black, white and red. Well, actually red, white and black, which are the color of the Second Reich, the color of Germany at the time. What else? You also have a chin strap, which is made out of leather. Usually when you buy a helmet, you have to pay very close attention to the chin strap. Often what you will have are chin straps that are copies, because many of the chin straps have been broken or have been lost and so on. So be careful when you buy one of those helmets. You have a different website that will explain to you how to distinguish a real chin strap from a copy. Again, this one is original. Everything about this helmet is original. And then what you have inside, it's the liner. So again, the liner is in leather with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 little thingy like that, called a dandou in French. I don't know how you call them in English. With holes, and actually in each and every one of those holes, normally there will be a piece of leather that will go to close it and to make the liner do its job. What you can also see is the way it is constructed. So the spike that you have on top, made of brass, is actually a link to the helmet through rivets. So you can see those 4 rivets, and they also use a metal plate to hold it in place, to hold everything in place correctly. Here we can not see, but the attach for the cockard and for the chin straps are also riveted to the leather. What else? Yes, in terms of markings, I don't know if you can see it here, but inside you have here a little stamp, which is actually the marker stamp. It's very common to find them in the, in German, Pickelhaube. Often you will also have the name of the soldier. In this one, unfortunately, I could not find the name of the soldier. You sometimes also find an etiquette, a little piece of paper with the name of the marker, sometimes or a regimental number or some information. It can also happen, not on this one, unfortunately. On the back of the helmet, usually what you will find is the year where the helmet was made. So for this case, you cannot see it because it's very faint, but it's 1914. I will put them on the screen for you to see, but it's 1914. For the regimental number, you also find it here. It's IR 125, also very faint, but just my word, I will also put a picture on top of the screen for you to see, which means Infantry Regiment 125, and you also have the Army Corps, from which the regiment is from. So another piece of information is that the stamps we just saw on this helmet are actually only present on helmets made for privates. So officers' helmets do not have those stamps, which makes them, in my eyes at least, a little less interesting. They are often more beautiful, but in my eyes a little less interesting, simply because I like to do some research about the object I own, to try to see if I can find some information either about the regiment, either about the person who actually own the object, and so on. So for this helmet, more specifically, what we know is that it was made in 1913. Sorry, I say 1914. But it is 1913, that it was also a helmet from the 125th Infantry Regiment. And so with those two information, what we can do is simply to go and check the archive to see what happened during this time to this regiment. So this regiment was engaged from the very beginning of the war in 1914 and stayed on the Western Front up until the end of the year before being sent to the Eastern Front in 1915. So it already gives us an indication on the time frame when it was on the Western Front and when this helmet most likely have been lost. Why do I say that? Because it's very likely that this helmet has been taken by a French soldier. Why? Because we have two little pieces of information in the back of the helmet, which are those two little holes. Those two little holes that you see in the back are actually very indicative of a helmet taken as a war trophy by a soldier, often a French soldier. Why? Because French soldiers loved to hang the helmet from their backpack or on their chimney. And so, as you can also see, everything is, the leather is in almost perfect condition everywhere. You know, there is no cracks in the leather anywhere. But on the back, you can see the leather is a little less. You can see traces of tension on the back visor of the helmet, which to me is kind of indicative of a helmet that has been hung somewhere. You can see. Here the varnish is perfect, and here it's a bit cracked, if you want. And so what does it tell us is that from the German archive, we know that it fought in France in 1914. We know that all the engagement it took part in August were actually victories for Germany. So during the Battle of the Frontiers, every engagement this regiment took part in was a German victory. And it was not defeated until the 10th of September during the First Battle of the Marne at Vaumary. So given the fact that you usually you usually do not lose your helmet when you are victorious, but rather when you are defeated. And given the fact that this regiment has been defeated in the 10th of September 1914 at Vaumary, I like to believe at least that this helmet may have been lost or taken as a war trophy by a French soldier on the 10th of September 1914. And what is also interesting with this date of 1914, of the 10th of September, it's because this battle is actually described in a book by a very famous author, Maurice Genevoix, who was an officer during the First World War with the infantry, and who fought at Vaumary against regiments he described in his book from Swabia and Württemberg. And we know that this regiment was present during this battle at Vaumary, which is a small village, so it's very likely that this helmet has been lost during this battle that Maurice Genevoix took part in and described in his book on several pages. And so, I don't know, maybe even this author, Maurice Genevoix, saw the man or saw this helmet on the back of one of his men backpack on the 10th of September. At least I like to believe that it may have happened. So those are the reasons why I tend to like those type of helmets, because of the stamps, because of all the history you can uncover when you take a look at them. And in my opinion, this is the reason why I collect objects, to know a little bit more about history, to know a little bit more about what happened to the object. So thanks a lot for watching. Next week I will post a video about another spiked helmet. This time it will be the model that replaced this one, the model 1915 spiked helmet. And I hope that to see you all there for this next episode next week. Thanks a lot. Bye.